Sometimes I wonder if spiritual people, if you're a spiritual person, sometimes I wonder if there's an incompatibility between being a spiritual person and being someone who hustles and makes money, right? And what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that the more spiritual you are, the more the more spiritual you are, the less attached you are to the things of this world, right? And for me, it's like I know money's cool to have and everything else, but for me, it's like this idea of like hustle. I don't want to say it this way, I'm trying to like describe a certain this certain thing. It's almost like if you have like the bare minimum to like survive, if you exist, then beyond that, it doesn't seem like spending your entire life, spending your life force in order to make money to make a number on a screen go up seems like this arbitrary meaningless task in the face of death, in the face of our our spiritual nature going out of body. It does seem like the more spiritual you are, the less compatible with like the materialistic stuff one is. And I don't know. It just seems like this sort of like I feel like money is sort of like this false god that people worship, right? Money is this sort of like this false god that people worship. It's this thing that people spend their entire lives trying to get, and they're on the sort of gerbil wheel their entire life, right? And it just seems like this thing that is just so it has such a grip on people's perception of reality, and it's almost like people are like hypnotized. It's like people are hypnotized or under mind control, like the way that the value that people place on it, and the fact that they allow this sort of arbitrary thing to place a value on everything else, right? And what's an interesting thing is like whenever people say money doesn't grow on trees, but here's the thing, what does grow on trees? Literally everything else, right? That's why they cut down trees to make money. That's why they cut down trees to print the money, right? And when it comes to like the monetary system, for me, it sort of disgusts me how much how many aspects of existing are essentially monetized, that you can't exist in a piece of land without paying property taxes or without paying rent. That you get like getting food instead of hunting for food, instead of picking it off of a fucking plant, right? So it's like you have to pay for it with money. It's like everything on this planet that used to be free, that used to be something that you could do, that you could acquire without having to answer to anyone else, without having to work for an employer or a boss or whatever, right? Everything that used to be that way, now it's been monetized and closed off, and now you can't. It's like you can't access the things like the basic things that you need to survive. You can't access it without them harvesting some of your energy, which is if you've watched a previous video of mine, that's exactly what jobs are. Is they're essentially energy harvesting rituals, like the way, and not only like the toxic people in the workplace, but you also have the oh my gosh, what is it? But you also have like the fact that like your time and your effort is going towards this big corporation, so your energy is literally being harvested into this sort of power pyramid, and most of like the money that you produce goes to the people at the top, right? And so literally like this is how on a physical level society is essentially designed to be like an energy harvesting sort of like an energy farm, right? Because it's almost like if you exist without the system's permission, if you exist without having to be without having to work for someone, if you exist without having to it's almost like yet again you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Like they want to monetize every aspect of the human existence. They want to monetize every aspect of human reality, and this is why like people are moving towards subscriptions now, or not people, corporations. They're turning everything into a subscription, right? You can't buy anything; you have to subscribe and pay monthly. Yet again, it's energy harvesting. What is what they're trying to do? It's energy harvesting. It's what they're doing is that they're essentially structuring society so that like, and this is like the ideal scenario to the people who are at the top, right? Is that they're essentially structuring society so that you're not allowed to exist without siphoning off some of your energy, whether it's through a job, whether it's through interacting with people, whether it's, when I say interacting with people, I mean interacting with toxic people, like exchange, like basically it's like you can't exist without exchange, without giving your energy away in some way to to access, a number on a screen, if you get, paid through digitally, or like a piece of paper, right? If it's cash, right? It's like it's like this society is structured to not allow you to exist, right? And I feel like this is why, like spiritual people, being a spiritual person and being sort of money focused seems to be, they seem to be these incompatible things, because if you're someone who's spiritual, if you're someone who's not focused on the things of this world, then you have sort of a big picture perspective, and a lot of like the consumerist stuff that you would usually do, you don't. A lot of the consumerist stuff that people usually do, like you wouldn't do. A lot of like this desire to move up the corporate ladder, you don't have that desire. And it's almost like, if you don't care what society thinks, if you don't care what people think, if you don't care about, quote unquote achieving things, if you don't care about the things of this world, the cost of living is surprisingly low. And you know and this is something that I've sort of come to realize about myself, is and I'm not saying money is about that. I mean, everyone wants money, obviously, right? But to spend most of your life in like a 9 to 5, to spend most of your life, sort of on the gerbil wheel. Yet again, like what they're doing, metaphysically speaking, is they're getting your consciousness into this sort of excited state, right? Because if there's any peace, if there's any, someone sitting and they're chilling and they're existing, like the system doesn't like that. The system wants people in this sort of nervous, excited state, where they're angry in traffic all the way to work, and then they go to work, and then they have to deal with people, and then they get tired, and all of their energy goes into the work, and then they go home, and they have, and then they get depressed about work and all this other stuff. So that whole cycle is designed to essentially just rattle the cage. Essentially, if you have human beings that are in a peaceful state of mind, that are unbothered by the things of the world, right? Then what the system tries to do is it tries to sort of shake it up. It tries to rock the boat, because that is what produces the energy, that ultimately, like these demonic entities, because it is a spiritual thing, right? Ultimately, these demonic entities, they want this sort of energy, from that human beings generate when they're in a mentally, a sort of metaphysically excited state, when they're not in a peaceful state of mind, when they're not in, like a relaxed, peaceful state of mind, where they're existing, like they're walking across the golden field of wheat, and they're looking at the stars, and they're eating berries and fucking in caves. They don't want that. They don't want like they have to turn it into something where it's as miserable as possible, and and that's how society is structured, and that is how, and I feel like money is a huge part of the loosh farm. Money is a huge part of the energy farm, because yet again, what they're doing is they're quantifying everything that exists in this reality, and they're saying that, oh, you have to exchange some of your time, some of your time, some of your energy, some of your effort, right? And this is why you get paid by the hour, right? This is why you get paid by the year. Is you get paid for the time, you're spending your time. Ultimately, you're spending your time in order to, you know in order to get this stuff, in order to get this thing we call money, right? And a lot of that, and this is why, like, because of the fact that they've made it time based, that they've made it so that the majority of people's time is spent getting their energy harvested by the system. And so people don't have time. They don't have the time or the energy, because they've spent it all at work. They don't have the time or the energy to work on themselves. They don't have the time or the energy to, you know start their own business. And worst of all, this is like the worst thing that the system doesn't want, is the system does not want people to sit and think about their situation, to sit and think about, like, the real, to ask the real questions in life, because they're too busy on the gerbil wheel surviving, right? And so I definitely think that, the more spiritual of a person you are, the less compatible you are with, like I don't it sounds like this predeterministic thing, but like the more spiritual you are, I feel like the less compatible you are with like material wealth, with materialism, because it's almost like the motivation that some people would have to hustle in order to make billions of dollars, the motivation that you know the things that motivate those kinds of people are not the same things that motivate the spiritual people, the people who are awake and aware of their own spiritual nature. They're aware that there's other things beyond this reality that matter more than the things of this world, right? And this is like a general symptom of being a spiritual person, is like the more spiritual you are, the less the things of this world matter, right? The less the things of this world matter, the less the things of this world count, essentially. So it's almost like you can spend your entire life getting a big number on the screen. It's almost like the richest people in the world, they wake up bright and early to make more money than they already have, even though they have like most of the world's money. It's like a mental illness, right? And so like the things that motivate those kinds of people are not going to be the same things that motivate the spiritual people over on this side, right? um and so I think that you know there definitely does seem to be this incompatibility between being a spiritually awake, a spiritually aware person, and being a materialistic person who's makes a lot of money and has a lot. Because and this is like another thing about making money, is that a lot of like the general structure of businesses is that you're by the very nature of the business, having employees means that basically what you're paying them less than the money that they're producing, because I mean that's what it is. You're paying people to do something for your business, and then you're essentially profiting off of the fruits of other people's labor, right? So the very nature of having a business, and not to mention that like the majority of like what people do in order to make money is generally unethical. I mean, there's ethical ways to do it, but you look at like the whole like the Andrew Tate stuff. You look at like the drop shipping. You look at the you look at I mean, drop shipping is the first thing that comes to mind, but it's also like basically like the way people sell products, the way that people lie to people, like the way that people lie to the public in order to make more money, the way that people cheat other people in order to solidify their position. You hear this all the time. Like if you watch if you watch like a documentary about like Steve Jobs or any other like business mogul. I mean, if you look at like the history of Elon Musk, right? The richest people in this reality are the most unethical. The richest people in this reality are always cutting corners. They're always stepping on people. They're always stealing from other people. They're always throwing people under the bus, right? And so yet again, right, to sort of analyze this sort of incompatibility, right? Like the more spiritual you are, the less compatible you are with like being like a billionaire over here, right? Because there are just certain things that the person who's spiritually awake is not going to be okay with doing that. This person over here who's a billionaire, they're totally okay with you know ruining people's lives if it makes them a buck, right? And so I think that, and this goes back to like the general structure, the inverted structure of this reality, is that like the more you is that this system rewards evil people and it punishes good people, right? So on top of the fact that if you're a spiritual person, you're not that materialistic, you're not going to be that concerned about the consumeristic stuff. On top of that, you also have this basic structure that in order to make money, right, in order to start, if you're starting a business, you're making the money that you make came from other people's labor, right? The money that you make came from other people's labor. And then you also have the fact that most of the successful businessmen, most of the successful business moguls, right, are oftentimes just psychos. They're liars. They're the most evil people. They'll throw you under the bus. They'll take credit for your ideas. They'll do anything if it makes them a buck, right? And so I think that is one of the things that is sort of like a fundamental incompatibility. Is number one, you realize that like the things of this world don't matter that much, and so the money that you use to buy the things of this world don't matter that much either. But then number two, you also have the fact that like this entire system is designed to reward evil people. So the more evil you are, the more money you get, right? And that sounds uncomfortable, but that's the way that's the way it is, right? Name one billionaire who's a saint, a good person. You can't. because in order for them to have that much money, they are it is it's basically a metaphysical requirement that that you be an evil person, that you're a part of the system, that there are controls in place, that that there are boundaries in place. If you get rich enough, if you get popular enough, you become controlled, right? So yeah, I definitely think this is like a subject I've been thinking about is just, why is it that like the people who are, spiritually aware, and the people who are, aware of the true nature of this reality, like why is it that like those people don't have as much money, or they don't seem to care about money as much as, the people over here who are super materialistic, and will cut corners, will step on people, and I think that that is sort of an interesting sort of incompatibility. And I'm not saying it's impossible, right? But I am saying that, the more spiritual you get, the more aware you are, the less, um you don't care as much about the things of this world, and so money doesn't really matter all that much. Being a millionaire doesn't really matter. Like, if you, it's almost like you become okay with existing without needing to fulfill without needing to check off all of the conditions that the system places on you. And I feel like that is ultimately what it is that the system tells you you need to be rich, you need to be this, you need to be that. And the system, yet again, and money has a lot to do with this, is that the system will try to place conditions on you existing, right? To the point where you're not allowed to exist without harvesting your energy, without being on the gerbil wheel, in order to just merely exist, in order to break even, right? That's how the system is designed. I think that if you're someone who's aware, if you're someone who's spiritually awake and aware, you're not going to be concerned about taking off the requirements of the system. You're going to try to work outside the system, and oftentimes that means that you're not going to make as much money as, you know as, the evil rich people who, are totally okay with doing all these bad things, who are totally okay with spending most of their life, doing something like that, and they never see the bigger picture. They're never happy, they're never fulfilled, and they don't know anything about themselves, right? So I don't know, that's sort of like an interesting topic I just wanted to talk about. I've just been thinking about that, but yeah, that's the video.